Alright folks, we're going to do a little demo of how to create a race in Shard, and you'll see I'm starting here with the Word document I intend to import. This was provided by one of our community members. It's a document that's currently undergoing development as part of the Wagadu Chronicles and a race called Osmond. And so the Osmond has 4 subraces based on the elements, and so we're going to model the base race and all 4 of the subraces. As we go, you can see this document here. The important thing about the document itself is just that I've gone and formatted it so that this particular setup has a heading 1 for the chapter heading, and then heading 2s for the section headings that I want. You'll see them here in the navigation of the document, right? And this is exactly how it's going to look when it comes into Shard, right? As these heading 2s will become section headers, Osmond's here, the heading 1 will become a chapter header, the heading 3s down here will become subsections within that chapter, and so on. And so that's what we want to do. Is the next step is to go and import this in, and then we'll start modeling the race that's here so that you can use it on a character sheet. All right, so what we want to do is go over here to into Shard and just go to the library. I want to import a book, and it's going to bring up my document that I had selected here. I select that. File is in use. Okay, yeah, so one of the important things about importing a file is you need to close it first. So you go close it, you pick the file, and you say open. Alright, I'll just call it Osmond. Obviously, if we had a document with multiple races or whatever else, we could make separate chapters for them, etc. In this case, I'm just going to create a single book for this, just for this race. Alright, so we've created it. We've got the import. You can see the import came in pretty clean here overall. We've got a few artifacts for the ampersands and the headers. It doesn't particularly like those. We're not going to worry about fixing those up right now. They're just formatting issues that we can go correct easily in the editor. But what we are doing is go down here to Osmond Traits. This is where we're going to do our modeling. Pretty typical for a setup for a race in a document to have a bunch of the fluff text and the descriptions and that sort of stuff, and then you eventually get down to the actual modeled traits of it. We'll go into edit mode here, go down to our section called Osmond Traits, and you can see we've got a number of modeled characteristics it's going to have, including its ability score increase, alignment, size, speed, and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the text of this section, since this is all going to become a modeled thing for the race. I'm going to go ahead and select all of this, and I'm actually going to cut it out of the document, and then go back up to my header and say, okay, we will actually want to insert a race block in its place, so a modeled race. All right, so go down here to races. We'll say we want a new one. This new one is going to be called Osmond. It's going to be based on an empty template. We're creating it from scratch. All right, so we're going to create this from scratch. And the first thing is this is a base race, so it shouldn't be selectable. You'll select one of the subraces when you decide what you're playing, so it's not going to be selectable. I can remember the size of medium here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and come down here and just put a placeholder feature here to cut all my text into. And this is all the different text. You can see I've got some of the features here that I need to go ahead and model, so I've got placeholders for some of them. This base race ability score improvement, we'll go edit that, and that's, instead of the default choose 3, this one actually has a +1 in intelligence, and the additional modifiers are going to come from the subrace, so that's the only mod it gets at this level. You see my text automatically got adjusted to that. I'll save that. Now we've got our intelligence. Walking speed of 30 is right. No reason to change age or alignment and that sort of stuff. Well, actually the alignment here did say tend toward neutral or lawful. Neutral remove that. And again, that's just fluff text. Alignment in 5e is obviously just a choice that the player makes in terms of how they play the character, and has very little mechanical effect on the game, almost none. All right, so the next one I know here, looking down, so we can go ahead and we've already put in size of medium and the ability score increase and all that, so we're just going to delete this text as we go to say, here we go. All right, got that. And the next one I know, if I look down here at the bottom, is language. And so language, we know it speaks common and elemental. Now, I happen to know that right now the list of languages in Shard is not extensible. So while I can go here and change it to say, to eliminate the choice of a language, right? So I'll just, instead of the choice, we'll just say the default is common. I really can't select elemental yet. So what I'm going to do is make myself a note to say common and elemental. This won't show up on the character sheet. It will show up in the description. We can go back and add that later when the modeling is updated to include an extensible list of languages. All right, so we'll point that out now. One of the shortcomings of races. Yes, we do admit our flaws as well. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to start creating the features that we need. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go down here to the bottom, and we can go ahead and chop off languages, because that one we already did. All right, elemental mastery. This looks like a particularly interesting feature. I'll take the text of it here, and again, I'll cut that and add a feature, and let's call it elemental mastery, and put in the text. All right, so this one gives you essentially the equivalent of Dragonborn type breath weapon, right? And so we can take 2d10. If we go any place there's a die roll in the text of any feature and make it bold, that's going to make it rollable by the die roller that's built into Shard. So we'll just go ahead and put that in to make those rollable. And there we go. And then the other thing about this is it's a use one per short rest sort of thing. So we need to go into the feature editor here. There's really nothing else modeled about it except it has a use count. So its use count is a fixed count of 1, and it recovers after a short rest. Right, you see this text, can't use it again until after you complete a short or long rest, actually matches the text here that would be the auto default for this. We're just going to keep the text that we imported. So we'll say save here, and elemental mastery is now a feature. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move that one up above what we're doing, and come back down here to the bottom and add another feature. And this one's temple training. So temple training, what does temple training do for me? Temple training basically says, okay, because of your formal knowledge or ancestral dreams, I'll take this text, you gain proficiency in religion. So when we edit this, this is a classic example of a feature that really doesn't need to be shown on the character sheet, because the mechanical effect of it is it gives you proficiency in a skill. So what we're going to do here is say we'll select the skill and we'll select religion. If this had given you a choice of different skills, what you would say here is choose any one, any two, choose 2 from a list, right? So we could check a bunch of these and make this a list, and so on. But this one is in fact just the default. It gives you proficiency in religion, which is pretty common for most races. They give you proficiency in a particular skill, not necessarily a choice. Classes more commonly give you a choice from a list. All right, so that's the modeling of that feature. Again, it doesn't need to show on the character sheet, primarily because the effect of it, proficiency in religion, is automatically going to be applied to that skill when you select this race. All right, so we've got that feature. Again, I'm going to just promote it back up in the order so that I can keep things in order here. And then I'm going to go select the text of quick alchemy. There we go. And add that feature. Name, quick alchemy. And paste the text. Looks like I got a spelling error there, so I'm going to correct that. Spend an hour during a short rest concocting any one of these items with alchemical supplies. An alchemical tool check is required. All right, so great. I want to highlight the things you can create. So, acid has a description in shard. Alchemist fire has a description in shard. Now this is a known issue here because it has an apostrophe in it. The apostrophe S confuses the search, so we'll just back up to there. It didn't change the underlying text. My link is fine. Shows under everything. That's just a known issue here with search and linking. All right, so now I've created links to all of those features, and I can again push this one back up the list. And last one here, alchemical knowledge and experience. Okay. There we go. Copy that. Click that, I guess. And say our feature is alchemical knowledge. All right, got that. Put the text back in and go into edit mode here. And this one actually does give you a tool proficiency. So we're going to go select the tool that gave you proficiency in, Alchemist Supplies, and say save. And there's really no reason to show it on the character sheet because the effect of it, the proficiency will be shown. So we'll make this one again a display only. It means when you're reading the description of the race in the picker, this thing will be displayed. It just won't take up room on your character sheet because the tool proficiency will already be shown on the character sheet. So rather than having the extra text that says you have proficiency in Alchemist Supplies, this just makes it pretty straightforward. So since Alchemist Supplies has a definition in the system, again, this is the apostrophe S search issue. So if we do this, we'll get Alchemist Supplies, and there, we've highlighted it correctly, and we're done. All right, and I've removed all the useful text from this, so I'm just going to delete this feature to remove that superfluous text, and we've pretty much finished the base race. Now we can go add descriptive options. I didn't see any of those in the document in terms of descriptive options for what things like personality traits, ideals, bonds, etc. Anything that are descriptive options for the character can be added here. Name generator could be added here, so we could go put names, first names, last names, and so on in the list, and that sort of thing. We're not going to do any of that right now. We could do that if we wished, and that's the base race model. So let's save that, and then when we hit save here, what it's going to do is it's going to inline that explanation right here. I'm just going to go fix up my spacing here a little bit. And now we have a nice descriptor of our race. So that's exactly what's going to show up when somebody tries to choose one. All right, so pretty straightforward. We've got the race. Now we need the sub-races, though, because, again, the base race is not selectable. You can't choose one of those. You need the sub-race, right? And so we'll continue to scroll down here, and we're going to create another race. All right. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead, this fluff text is useful as is, but these things will be in the descriptor. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these out. Cut those out. Remove a few extra spaces here. Sometimes documents are notorious for having a lot of extra spaces in them, depending on their source. And here we go. We're going to go select erase again. And similarly, we'll hit new, just like we did last time. And this one is going to be called and we're going to call it Fire Osmond. It's sort of subtext, right? It has a unique name, and it is a subrace of there. And for base race, we're going to choose the one we just created, the Osmond. And instead of saying create a new race based on Osmond, we're going to create a subrace based on Osmond. So that means it's going to inherit characteristics from that. It'll be selectable in the hierarchy below it. And so we're going to create a new subrace based on Osmond. You can see it's got all of the normal characteristics here. And we can do the same trick we did before, coming down to the bottom, right? Adding feature to placeholder text. So we'll just put our placeholder text in here. You notice this has got an ability score increase. We could create a separate ability score increase, but I like to see them in one section. So what I'm going to do is go back up here to this section where the ability score increase is shown and edit this. And this one increased charisma by 2. So we're going to go down and say charisma by 2, save, and save. And that's done. All right, so we've got our ability score increase for the subrace included, and then the only other unique ability is this Fire Mastery. So we're going to go ahead and create a feature for that. Call it Fire Mastery. All right, and then do a copy of the text and put it in here. And then this one actually has a couple different model characteristics. All right, so it's got one that's a resistance to damage. So we have a resistance to a particular damage type. And so we're going to go here and say resistance. And we have resistance to fire damage. All right, so there we go, resistance to fire damage. Save. And that shows up here as a modeled feature, resistance to fire. And then the other one, it says if you're not wearing armor or armor charms, you gain a natural armor of 12 plus your dexterity modifier, thanks to the glowing flames that appear to protect you. Okay, so this is an unarmored AC. All right, so if we go down and select unarmored armor class, you'll see a few choices here. All right, this says it's 12 as the base. All right, this doesn't say anything about shield, so we're going to say, okay, we're going to allow shield, right? And your dexterity is the modifier that applies. Some other classes apply different modifiers here. In this case, I might have preferred to see charisma since that's the one I have the biggest increase in, but dexterity is the logical one. And we'll say save, save here. And then what you'll see is this says, okay, unarmored AC 12 plus bonus from your dexterity with or without a shield, armor class if not wearing armor, which is this characteristic here. If you're not wearing any armor, you get that, right? So it doesn't say you can't use a shield, so I left it with you can't use a shield. All right, so there we go. Save that. Now we've modeled the characteristics. Again, we can remove our excess text here. And we're done. Again, we could put more descriptive options and names unique to the subrace if there were any, that sort of thing directly in the list here. Again, we're going to just bypass that for now and say save. And now we've got the Fire Osmond. Now we'll repeat this. We'll go repeat this for the additional subraces. Here, the wind and water and earth. And so on. We're going to do that in a second. But what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go over here. We'll come back to this book and complete that process in just a second. But I want to go ahead and create a character based on this, right? We've done this modeling. We should want to create a character. So let's go create a new character. And we can give it any name we want. So we'll just keep that name. And when we pick race here, you notice that my Osmond right here is in the list now. So I now have that in the list, and I can go choose this particular subrace, right, the Fire Osmond, and it gives me a description of it, including all my characteristics and so on. And if I hit close, you'll notice on my character sheet, I now have religion bolded because I have a proficiency in religion. That was one of the characteristics I had. I've got a tool proficiency in alchemist supplies. I have a damage resistance to fire. I have, let's see, what other characteristics? Fire mastery, right? So resistance to fire damage, not wearing armor, armored AC. I left this one on the sheet because even though it's shown as a 12, and I don't have a dexterity modifier yet, it will show up. I left it on the sheet because a lot of times people wonder where these things come from or why they come and go, so I left that one on the sheet. You could hide it. It's a choice. Again, Elemental Mastery has a little tick box for the use count here, and if we roll, we click the dice, we get to roll, and when we roll level up to level 6, we can click this instead and roll 3 dice, and so on for our different abilities. Now, the interesting thing is forcing to make a dexterity savings throw about this ability. It doesn't say how to calculate the save DC, right? So that's something we want to figure out, how you calculate the save DC for this particular thing. It's probably an oversight in the design, but we'll go back in a second and add a save DC. Again, I don't know what the designer intended here, but we can go add a save DC, and it's going to show up directly next to this feature, right, in terms of what's going on. So, all right, and if we had used this, we can click there to say we've used it, and you notice that it recovers on a short rest. Great, so we're going to do a short rest, and bang, my checkbox emptied for me. All right, so all the mechanics of short rest and so forth were handled by the modeling I did. All right, so that's that, just to prove that dexterity does affect my unarmored AC. Let me go just pick a dexterity score. We'll go ahead and put the 14 there, which should give me a bonus of 2, and hit save. And then you'll notice my AC immediately went to 14 based on unarmored armor class ability down here of Fire Mastery. All right, so anyway, that's a quick tour of using that. Obviously, we'd go and make the other choices about this character to complete the build for background class and so forth, but that's how our custom races affected this character. All right, now we're going to go back from here, back to our book. All right, so we were working on this book. We'll edit this, and I remember looking at this and saying, oh, we don't have a save DC on our Elemental Mastery trait, right? So we need to go back over here to Osmond Traits and go into editing this, and we need to pick a save DC for Elemental Mastery, right? Because this thing requires a savings throw, but didn't tell us what the save DC was. So, all right, so save DC here. We can choose it to base it on anything. Since all Osmond get a bonus to intelligence, I'm going to assume it's based on intelligence, right? And so the save DC will be based on intelligence. So the way a save DC is calculated, you can see here in the descriptive text, this DC for the savings throw is equal to 8 plus your intelligence modifier plus your proficiency bonus. I don't want to change all of the text above, but what I do want to do is copy this text and add it right here. This is just a normal design characteristic that should have appeared in this thing to say, hey, save DC, how do you calculate that since this thing requires a save? All right, so now that's in. We have that, we can save it. That'll immediately update the character sheet that we were looking at earlier. We'll go back and look at that in a minute to show that new text and to also show the DC on the character sheet. But we're going to go ahead and finish off modeling our other subclasses. So again, much like we did before, I'm going to go in here and select our text and cut that and fix up some of the extra spacing here that came in as a result of our import. And then go here and say, okay, we're going to add a race to this section. So we're going to add a new race. Add a race, and this one we're going to create one, right? And we want to call this Hindu, and it's Wind Osmond. All right, and we want to base it on our Osmond again, and we want to create a subrace. All right, so all right, if we go down again, play our trick of taking our extra text for our features and put them in here just as a placeholder. And dexterity is what's increasing. Makes sense for the wind to be fast, swift. So dexterity is going to get the increase here. Again, I like seeing these all in one block rather than adding a separate ability that, for the subrace. And so what I'm going to do is go put this here and say +2 and save it. So that way you know what you're getting. Save. We're done with that one. And then back down at the bottom here, we need our air mastery feature. All right, so air mastery. Air mastery is going to do a couple things. All right. Increases our speed to 40 and gain advantage on charisma checks dealing with air spirits. Now, gaining advantage on a check for a particular type is not something that you can really model. So what we're going to do is just leave this as text that's going to appear on the character sheet. So we'll chop that, leave this as text on the character sheet. So we don't really have to do anything. That's the default. If we hit edit here, you'll see this is going to show on the character sheet. There's no real modeling here. It's going to happen. I could put the modeling for the speed increase to 40 here. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and delete our superfluous text here, and then I'm going to go up and change the speed for this race to be 40. All right, so rather than saying 30 in one place and 40 in another, I'm going to edit this and change movement speed to be 40. Again, you'll see in a minute for the races that have another speed type, we could put those in here and get that as well. But it automatically changes the text to a walking speed of 40, and we hit save. Again, we hit save because we're finished with our modeling. We hit save to insert it into the document, and you can see now we have a nice description of what this particular subrace gets. All right, some of the inherited characteristics and the unique ones that are specific to this particular subrace. So that's got that. So again, I'll just keep going down to our next one. And so gain a swim speed. So this is water mastery. I'm going to sort of shortcut myself here. Since there's not a lot to remember here, I'm just going to cut this one sentence. All right, and then I'm going to remove excess text. Wisdom and score increased by 2, and that text for water mastery doesn't seem too hard to remember. So we'll do that and fix up that spacing, and then go back up here. And all right, we're gonna go again. The type we want to insert is a race. Again, we're creating a new one. Again, we're going to give it a name, and this time it is water Osmond. All right, and we're going to base it on our base race, Osmond, and create a subrace. Again, we get all of our stuff. Now we know for this one, it gets a wisdom modifier, so our ability modifier is wisdom goes to +2. Save. Save. There we are. And come down here, and its unique feature was water mastery. And so water mastery. And I cut that text earlier, so there's my text. Gain a swim speed. You're amphibious and can speak 2 additional languages. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to create movement speed. So movement, swim speed of 30. Amphibious is not a modeled characteristic, so we're going to need to leave this thing visible on the character sheet. And then speaking 2 additional languages. What we're going to do here is say 4 languages, and we get to pick any 2. And save. So any 2 new languages and a swim speed of 30 are the modeled characteristics here. We'll leave the text as is. And save, and we have our third subrace created. All right, so if we go down, we'll see the inserted block there. Swim speed, amphibious, so on. All of our text is there. And then we're going to, again, for this one, strength is the ability increase. You're going to gain advantage on Constitution savings throws. And all right, so we're going to say clip the text for that, and then just remove this excess text. I think I can remember strength long enough to get over to the dialogue, so I'm not going to cut and paste that again. And then what we're going to do, let's go back up to the heading here, and again create an inserted race. There we go. New one. Race name. This time it's Laka. And Earth. And again, we want to base it on our template for Osmond. And create a new subrace. And hit. Okay, so there we go. Edit this because strength was characteristic got changed. All right, so strength is the one for Earth. And hit save. And save. And then down here, we're going to add one unique feature. Is Earth mastery. There we go. Advantage on Constitution strength savings throws. There's no real way to model that. That's just going to show up on the character sheet. And same for armor charms, not decreasing your speed. So there we go. We have it. Again, the default is to show it on the character sheet, so it will show up. Save, save, save. It's been inserted into our document. And now we've created all 4 subraces. So to show that off, let's just go back to character creation over here. And we'll pick our same character that we'd chosen before. And go back to the race selection. And we can choose any one of these classes that we want, subclasses that we want. There we go. Wind, earth, water, fire. And there we go. And you'll notice that our AC changed because of this, and because our dexterity score increased by 2. And I go here and show you the dexterity bonus was automatically applied because I had 14 in this ability before. It went up to 3. AC dropped to 13 because this one doesn't have the unarmored feature, which is correct. 10 plus 3 is the normal AC, so that got modeled correctly. You know, I talked about our save DC. Intelligence save of DC 8. Since we don't have a class level yet, we don't have a proficiency bonus, and we don't have an intelligence bonus yet because we haven't assigned anything in that ability. So if we went and picked a class, so let's just pick something simple. We'll choose fighter and say save. And yes, we could pick the options, but we're not going to. We're just going to say save. And now, because we have a class, right, you'll notice that our ability modifier or save DC just got recalculated to be 10. And we go here and change our intelligence and choose one of our other scores to put into intelligence. Let's go ahead and put the 13 there. All right, now we've got a plus 2 intelligence modifier. Then we should go through here and see, oh, our save DC just got recalculated to 12. So all of it's hooked up, all of it's working, it's all modified. Again, we can do die rolls from here and all the beautiful things that we had modeled before. our air mastery ability, our movement speed of 40. If we go back up here and show movement, walk speed of 40 is shown. If we change to the water Osmond, so let's go choose that one, you'll see our speed change, our walking speed should have changed back to 30, but our swim speed is now shown at 30 as well, and the characteristics on the character sheet changed as well. So, and we also got options to pick now because we lose 2 new languages we get as a result of our feature. So these options are now pickable in terms of what's going on. So we could pick 2 more languages that we speak, and we're done. And now that option went away as well. All right, that's it. That's our tour of creating a new race with subraces, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.